I think elections are a standard ingredient of democracy. And we have accepted that as Kenya to say we will always have elections, and we've chosen democracy. And as we look forward to the general elections in the next 33 days, and learning from the previous ones, we acknowledge that it is imperative for us all to work together to ensure a peaceful, free, fair, and credible election that will not only protect the gains we have made as a country, but also ensure that there is continued development and business continuity, life continuity, geared towards a prosperous Kenya. We've come out of 2 years of COVID, and I think the devastating effects of that we've all seen. So this will probably be a small speed bump in our process, but really we don't see any serious crisis. And following on from 2007, 2008, when we had our post-election violence, and since then, in 2012, we've dubbed Kenya Daima, and we established it in 2012 to say, let's look at championing peaceful elections, bringing all people together. So Kenya Daima is a non-partisan, multi-stakeholder platform with the primary purpose of inspiring peaceful elections and a smooth transition. It is inspired by the private sector through KEPSA, but it's for all Kenyans of various origins, various stakeholder groups. We call them the business community, the civil society, the religious leaders, the media, the youth groups, women groups, and also a lot of people who are non-state actors. As Kenya Daima, we actively participated in the 2012 and 2017 elections, and I think where political aspirants were encouraged to sign on to the Kenya Daima non-violence pledge that was shown publicly, to commit to upholding the rule of law, the respect to human life, and also not to propagate any or tolerate any form of violence during or after the elections. In addition to promoting peace, the initiative also encouraged various institutions, including IEBC, to follow up and support them on their preparedness to deliver free, fair, and credible elections. And building on the interventions and lessons learned under the previous phases of Kenya Daima 2022 now is not only focusing on peaceful elections and smooth transition, but we seek to build more on moving away from Haki Yetu towards Wajibu Wetu. And Wajibu Wetu moves towards something else we call Wajibu Wangu. We're bringing this back home to every single individual, whether we are in public, whether in private sector, whether in religious, civil society, everyone together, and saying, let's look at it from one angle. So we've got something we say, mimi ni Mkenya daima, nitatenda wajibu wangu. Excuse me. So question is, what is Wajibu Wangu? Wajibu Wangu ni nini? So a lot of people talk about this. What is my responsibility? Let's bring it back to every one of us, whether we're in election agency business, or we're in normal business, or we're in any sphere of life. And let's do this rallying call for all Kenyans to come together and say, let us all be responsible. Tukagua bele ya kuchagua. Which means let's check out who are we looking for, and we're looking for good, transparent leadership in our country. And also looking at every level, whether it's MCA level, whether it's at MP level, or governor level, senator level, or presidential level, or the women rep level. And I think this is where we're looking for good governance and leadership, because this is what the public wants. They want public accountability, and they want efficient and transparent systems, as well as create hope, confidence, and optimism amongst Kenyans. And this is why we've got a three-legged discussion in terms of have a good and transparent, accountable leadership in power. Also focus on the positive gains and the growth opportunities for the country. Sometimes we tend to forget as Kenyans that we have come a long way in Africa. We have come a long way globally. And yet all the gains that we have, we mar them with saying, oh, we've got elections, therefore you need to be this way or that way. Politicians will do their work. They're cut out to do whatever they have to do. They have to make promises in order to get into power. But what is Wajibu Wetu? What is Wajibu Wangu? And I think that's the key area. The third thing we talk about is the change in the political, economic, and the social narrative, and one that is positive and build Kenya towards a far better, brighter future. We have Vision 2030. We have a lot of discussions going around in manifestos. And I think these three things will be achieved in three pillars. The political pillar we talk about is the leadership and governance. So influencing the choice of leaders and looking at the Chapter 6 of the Constitution of Kenya, I think we need to look at that and say, what are the stakeholders talking about? Again, we're also talking in terms of our communications, whether it's TV, radio, or whatever, and discuss what does good and accountable leadership mean and their characteristics. On the economic pillar, I think our chair, she just talked about it. It's a people-centered and economy-led manifestos. And I think KEPSA has done a good job of going to the manifestos, focusing on them and addressing every issue that we're looking at. And I think whilst delivering on these aspirations, we want to make sure that people are accountable to what they say. Against this, we are looking at Kenya being a very focal point in the whole of Africa. East Africa is one, ACFT is another one, and therefore the gains we have made in terms of what we've got. In fact, this time as Kenya Daima, when we say Wajibu Wangu, we'd like to make sure that Kenya becomes an example of democracy and a real icon to say this is what we should be looking at. On the social pillar, we're talking about peaceful elections and a smooth transition. I think what we want to say is live life without interruptions, and therefore we're talking about peace messages going across and talking about where we're going in terms of leadership. We have enjoyed a very good working relationship with the IEBC, and particularly being vocal about the credibility and the institution that has been set up. And I think the agencies, we've also met with all the other agencies involved in elections, and I think this is important to say that IEBC remains free, independent, and less exerted on pressures by political pressures to say, do this and do that. And I think IEBC is a focal point for leading the way forward in terms of where we're going for a credible election. I think that's very crucial.